Hello, ladies and gentlemen. For this video, I'm going to be talking about responsibility in Macbeth. Who is responsible for Macbeth's downfall? Is it Lady Macbeth for convincing Macbeth to kill King Duncan and plot out that initial murder? Is it the witches who manipulate Macbeth, causing him to become even more greedy? Or is it Macbeth who ultimately has the choice to carry out the killings and behave the way in which he does? Now, in order to understand this question of responsibility, I'm going to take you to a theme called fate versus determinism. Now, fate is the idea that every single action that we do is predetermined by some type of higher being. There is an ultimate being who already knows the choices that we make, and ultimately, everything we already do is predetermined by a higher force. So, for example, I've got these keys. Oh, someone knew that I was going to drop those keys even before I did it. That was predetermined. They knew I was going to move those keys. They knew I was going to grab my cell phone. That is the idea of fate, that something is already predetermined or predestined before we actually carry it out. Now, determinism is the opposite of fate. Determinism is the idea that we all have pathways and we choose which direction we want to go. Now, something if I chose to drop my keys, for example, I had a choice to drop them or not drop them. Now, the option, even if we have a higher being, knows that those are my options, but I made a choice to drop my keys. I determined that I was going to do that. That is the understanding of determinism. Now, the witches toy with Macbeth. Do you think that they already know his fate and what he will do? If so, you support the idea of fate. If you support this idea of fate, the witches become a lot more responsible, or maybe even fully responsible, for Macbeth's downfall because they already know what he's going to do, and his actions are already predetermined. Now, if you believe that while the witches tell Macbeth his prophecy and show him the apparitions, but ultimately he's the one who makes that choice, then you support the idea of determinism and that Macbeth is the one solely responsible for his downfall. Perhaps the witches toy with him, but he makes the choice and he ultimately is the one who carries this out. The second theme I'm going to talk about is the idea of feminism. Now, in the beginning stages, we see Lady Macbeth consumed in the idea of royalty and power. But ultimately, after the death of Duncan, Lady Macbeth takes a backseat to Macbeth's power and can't live up to the actions her husband has done. She sees blood on her hands. She cannot sleep at night. And ultimately, she takes her own life. I mean, how Shakespearean, of course. Now, when answering these questions, I want you to think, who do you believe is the one responsible? Of course, all three play a role, but make a choice and think, who's more responsible than the other? I'm really looking forward to these discussion posts that you have. Should you have any questions, of course, feel free to message me.